Officers of the Revachol Citizens Militia. Was there anything else? Kedra is a candidate member of APIS. But, between you and me, their potential membership is a more contentious issue. How did any of us become friends? Bad things happening on the Insulindian Isola? Oil platforms ablaze in the night, civil wars lasting for years. Finally, the international community is forced to step in. EPIS is a very special program developed by the Moral Intern to support certain Occidental nations. It began as a unified system of weights and measures, which proved to be a wild success. Nothing but kilograms and centimeters as far as the eye can see. It was such a wild success that we expanded it into an economic union for the processing of steel. Another success. And between you and me, the Moral Intern feels emboldened by this success. Emboldened to take EPIS to the next level. My friend comes and goes. I'm sure you'll see him around. He's a busy bee. A supranational political alliance. The United States of Occident. You mean Revachol? No, it's going to have transparent democracy. Listen, we're old friends. Nothing's taboo between us. He comes and goes. Officer, you have to understand. I can't give you his personal information. I'm sure you have your own methods and databases, right? Please don't put me in this situation. Au contraire, it's how millions of people end up where they are. Meeting the people they meet. It's how I came here, and my friend too. One of the wonders of democracy is that everyone is allowed to have his own opinion. And not just allowed, encouraged even. Have you ever tried debate? He's a bright young man here to pursue his education. Education is the foundation of our future, especially the arts. It is a cornerstone of our civilization. Ah, my friend. My friend is a good young man. His family immigrated here from Kedra, and life has not been easy for him. But he understands the importance of education. He has taken his future into his own hands, and that's all that matters. Martin Martinez? That's not a name. Are you referring to my friend? But I told you, he's from Kedra. Definitely not just another Martin Martinez or Raoul Revachol. Perhaps that's why he and I became friends. Debating. You should consider joining a debating society for adults. I hear they're oodles of fun. I used to have a flyer for one, but I'm just enjoying the view. But now that I start thinking of it, it was for an improv class anyway. It's this funny theater thing, you know? Very creative. Helps relieve stress. But the million real view stays. You can't take that away. No, listen. That it's never going to happen. They entered negotiations in 21, and it's been pending ever since. The Insulindian Bay. I'm all ears, officer. It's one day going to be a candidate member of EPIS, sure. No, candidate members do become members. Why do we even have the whole system in place if they don't? It just takes time. Time and evaluation. I'm sure you'll see him around. He's very active. He's a truly free spirit. He likes all the arts. Perhaps graphic design, printmaking, who knows? The world is open wide for a talented youth like him. But I told you, officer, he's a bright young man here to pursue his education. Education is the foundation of our future, especially the arts. It is a cornerstone of our civilization. Sorry, who? This place used to be a luxury accommodation before the revolution. Apartments, of course, were much bigger then. A few walls have been added here and there, leaving some of the tenants without a private bathroom or a kitchen. He's deeply enmeshed in the study of the fine arts, yes. It's warm. It's also known for its mandarin trees and dust storms from Supramundi. Kedra's an emerging market, but it still has a long way to go. Maybe that's why my friend's ménage decided to emigrate. Do you think peace is boring? What about prosperity? Yes, as I said before, I am a commissioner from Sur-la-Clé working for the Institute of Price Stabilité. This is one of the main projects of the Moral Intern. Well, I'm renovating it. It is an interesting project. The building used to be a 12-story skyscraper before the cannons took the top 4 stories off. This, of course, happened when the coalition forces landed here. Oh, yes, the big bad coalition crushed the revolution. Tell me, if the revolution was succeeding, would it have been crushed so easily? La communauté internationale is what Revacholians colloquially call the coalition. In other words, the nations that stopped the disaster of the revolution. Whatever you wish, officer. It is the most important thing. The coalition is only looking out for the price stabilité. Inflation is a killer, like a heart disease blocking the normal circulation of the economy. It must be controlled. Your employer, technically speaking. The governing authority of Revachol. The RCM is but one part of this provisional administration. Ah, yes, the unattainable ideal. Never settle for less. Good luck with that, my friend. I agree. And we as an international community should strive to bring this prosperity to every kid on every isola. It's the central goal of any sound monetary policy. Maintaining the price stability is essential to maintaining high levels of economic activity, which is essential for maintaining high levels of employment. Exactly. I don't find it boring. I find it fulfilling. Peace is what allows me to have my morning coffee, my afternoon golf, my sundown friends. Précisément. Too much inflation, bread becomes too expensive. Too much deflation, it becomes too cheap for bakers to produce. But not too far below, no. Too below is also bad. Below, but close to 2%. The coalition believes in the importance of informing the public about the benefits of the price stability. Transparency is one of our principles. Would you like an informational pamphlet? Are we really so bad for wanting compromise, peace, and prosperity on reasonable, achievable terms? Ask yourself that. It's the International Organization for Moralists, hence Moralist International. The Institute of Price Stability is just one of its many mind babies, as is the coalition. That's why the Institute of Price Stability works to keep inflation just below 2%, because moralists believe in a normal, stable world governed by democratic values. Oranien's economy is one of the most advanced in the world. It has successfully transitioned from heavy industry to advanced services and generally acts as an engine for sustainable change in the international community. As founding members, they are both very EPIS. Oranie carries a lot of political weight, while Sur la Clé takes care of the business side of things. Sur la Clé hosts the headquarters of the major EPIS institutions. But they are working towards it. You're all doing very well here, relatively speaking. But of course, moralism is all about compromise and achieving the achievable. It's pragmatic, realistic, and level-headed, an ideology for doers. Are you a doer, my friend? It looks to me like you are. Well, do you value freedom? Do you believe in a normal, stable world governed by democratic values? The Occident is part of the normal world. Oranie, Sur la Clé, Martinez? No. Martinez is something else. It's moving towards the right direction, and that's all that matters. Progress is measured in centimeters, my friend. Revachol is generally difficult. It's led by an interim government, which means it hasn't yet achieved full democracy. Sounds like you're a moralist indeed, my friend. Welcome. Is this option D usually the most reasonable answer? Your full autonomy is important, I agree. But it's an ongoing process. Nothing happens overnight. Now, enough of this delightful political interlude. Was there anything else you wanted to ask? Ah, my friend. But the lesson of the revolution is that communism does not work. A moment, officer. You have acquired the robe. Keep it, officer. It looks good on you. You have acquired the hat. Keep it, officer. It looks good on you. What's there to say? Sur la Clé is a modern, urbanized country that measures very high on the Human Development and Freedom Index. Mostly, though, it's known as the executive heart of EPIS. Oranie is an exemplary nation who, as a core member of EPIS, contributes 28% of our annual budget. Next to Sur la Clé, Oranie is probably the most prominent member of the international community. Do you have everything you need from me? I'm afraid we won't have the chance to speak again once you leave. Of course. I'm glad I could help. Sure. Go ahead. It's a beautiful space. Let me know if you have any further questions. It's against diplomatic best practices for an official in my position to be discussing murders with local militiamen. And I'm pressed for time. After you leave, I should be leaving as well. And my friend's not even your typical local. Definitely not just another Martin Martinez or Raoul Revachol. Maybe that's why we're friends. That's one way to put it, yes. They certainly have the power to exert influence over others, but they only do it in the name of regional stability. After all, Oranier is a moral internation, not some crazed Mesque petro-fascist state. About what? Oh, it's very urban and very well organized. Their streets are clean, their horse cars run on time, the people are polite and efficient. Like I said, they are an example for less emerged nations to follow. Because a great percentage of Revachol's culture hails from Sur-la-Clé. Its language, its people, its cuisine even. Or at least in the downtown La Delta area, of course. Let me just say it has been an emotional week for me. That's really all I can tell you about it. I got it from the head of the Samaran delegation on my trip to Lomantang. It's made from a special charcoal-colored bamboo. It's an emblem of the formal normalization of our diplomatic relations. Oh, we got it from an atelier in the East Delta Commerce Center. Personally, I think it's a little culturally insensitive, but the material is great. Sadly, the shop is now out of business. Moreover, it is a great sponsor of less emerged countries. Revachol is only one of its many darlings whose progress it supports and cherishes. My name is Charles Villedrouin, and I am an official with the coalition government. I work for the Institute of Price Stabilité on assignment from Sur-la-Clé. I heard you talking to my friend outside. Very good. Super. I am here to assist you in any way possible. Ask me about the hanging. Oh yes, my friend has a great eye for these things. He refuses to tell me where it came from. It's a mystery. I believe they call this type of frame industrial. It's very comfy. The economy impacts the entire international community, which is why it requires international oversight. I'm sorry to say I did, officer. Officer, it's very difficult to describe what I saw that night. It was so surreal to me, like in a play. Because I did it? I was on the balcony when it happened, getting some fresh air. I remember that first they came in, carrying what looked like a body. And then I saw all the surrounding windows go dead, one by one. It was just so strange. I could barely comprehend what was happening. No. I mean, it was so strange. I could barely believe what was happening. What's the meaning of this? Well, I can certainly understand that. That hanging was a surreal play. Everything since then has been too. I won't stand for this. What's your name? I'll have your badge. Very well, Harry. You're a disgrace to the RCM. Get out of my sight. This instant. I couldn't see their faces well, and there were quite a few of them. But they were very loud and very Martinez. Let's just say that the laboring classes can get rather expressive with their profanities. I couldn't tell you exactly. Less than 10. Maybe 8? Drummers? Why, no. But then, I don't know what a drummer is supposed to look like. No, there were no mythological giants, I'm afraid. They were all quite human, so far as I could tell. That's a giant you're describing. No, they were all quite human, as far as I could tell. I went back inside. Officer, the yard was pitch black. There was nothing to see, but I could still hear their voices. They were threatening to kill that poor man. All men, I presume. But again, I couldn't see very clearly. I believe they were mostly white, though I believe I saw 2 Areopagites among them. And I am quite certain that one spoke with a Mesque accent. Those funny... Oh, officer, that kind of language is unbecoming of an officer of the RCM. It's possible, officer, but I cannot say with certainty. It was very dark, you must remember. Well, that's the strangest part, officer. Nothing happened. It was oddly quiet for a public lynching. You're right, of course. That is what one is supposed to do in such circumstances. I was simply in shock. Eventually, their shouts died down, and that was all. There were no gunshots, no celebratory shouts, no anything. All I can say is that it was late. No, I didn't see the corpse until the following day. My watch. Yes, now I remember. It was 30 minutes past midnight, give or take. I'm afraid I don't have anything else to add. Of course, anything I can do to assist the RCM. I'm sorry I couldn't be of more assistance, which is essential for maintaining the social stability. Take your daily bread, par exemple. Too much inflation, bread becomes too expensive. Too much deflation, it becomes too cheap for bakers to produce. But oh, I don't have my leaflets on me today. That's too bad. You can always call our information line. Making information available is part of the moral intern's commitment to transparency. A sound monetary policy is essential for addressing uncertainty. Stability is the raison d'être of the moral intern. It's the reason why I identify as a moralist. Not boring, my friend, responsible. My friend, that is only because you have never known the alternative. And I pray you never do. Oh, yes. Sur la clé is mega benevolent to its darlings. A very moralist answer. Why, it stands for progress and stability, like the moral intern as a whole. It's been such a wild, extraordinary success thus far. We are very excited to take it to the next level. Oh, how wonderful. I've heard it's oodles of fun. Not that I have time to take up new hobbies myself. You're a disgrace to the RCM. Out with you. This instant. You're doing me no service. Get out. This instant. What kind of name is that? You're a disgrace. Get out. This instant. You'll be in between jobs soon. Get out. This instant. You're a disgrace to the law. Get out. This instant. In all my years, I've never seen a Lieutenant Yefreiter behave this way. You're a disgrace. Get out. This instant. Very well, Mr. Dubois. You're a disgrace to the RCM. Get out. This instant. Of course. I'm sorry I couldn't be the break you were looking for. Good luck with the investigation. I have nothing to say to you. Get out of my sight. Oh, that's unusual. The Oraniers are not the kind of people you associate with heinous crimes. It's such an upstanding and responsible country. Well, certainly one cannot rely simply on generalizations. That would go against our commitment to individual freedoms. And, of course, any loss of life is a tragedy. So tell me, what have you learned about the victim? Ah, what a shame. A man cut down in his prime earning years. Lely? That's an interesting name. Ah, he was a soldier. Aha! A condottiere. Yes, it's hard to believe they still exist. A great shame, yes. Colonialism is a dark spectre in Oranier's past, which is why the work of the moral intern is so critical. It is our great bulwark against another century of bloodshed. Officer, please. The moral intern is dedicated to fostering a more tolerant and pluralistic society. There's no room for racial slurs there. That is extremely unfortunate. Yes, it's regrettable that this practice has a history in certain Occidental nations, even highly advanced members of EPIS. But rest assured, the Oraniers government has committed to producing a timetable that would lay out a path to transition to a professional army. Soon, there'll be no need for mercenaries like this poor man. See? That's the kind of progress that the moral intern makes possible. Oh, it's hard to put an exact date on it. I believe the proposal for the timetable is due to be completed around 60 or 61. Extremely distasteful behavior. I cannot condone either drug use or needless boasting. Suffice it to say, that is not how we do things in Sur-la-Clé. As I said, the loss of any life is terrible, no matter who the person may have been. I do hope you're able to bring his killer or killers to justice. We must show that the rule of law still applies, even in Revachol. Well, I would say that is very bad indeed. Not super. What sort of a fugitive are we talking about here? That is extremely serious. This fugitive must be turned over to the ICP immediately. Have you apprehended them already? Oh, a good joke. Very funny. Littering is of course a local offense that need not concern the moral intern. That could be quite bad, depending on what sort of place you're talking about. Very good. Now, was there anything else you'd like to discuss? Ah, well, burglary is a serious violation of the right to property, but it is a local matter. Thus, the moral intern need not get involved. Now, Was there something else you wanted to discuss? Very good. What else then? Yes, well, as I was saying, colonialism has left a dark legacy in many places. One we must move past, but also never forget. Ah, that's right. You did say this was all just a hypothetical scenario. Phew, for a moment there I was concerned that we had quite the situation on our hands. What do you mean as a hypothetical? I don't mean to imply anything, officer, but there's no chance you're harboring a fugitive, is there? A what? A child? As a common lorry driver, you say? Interesting. Are you sure? Much as I'm inclined to believe you, I'm not sure my colleagues at the ICP will. Evrard Clare? Surely you're mistaken. Besides, in certain less advanced nations, the moral intern may defer to local custom. I'll make note of your claims in my report, but I'm sorry to say it's likely to end up in the back of the filing cabinet somewhere in Mirova, unread and forgotten. A cafeteria manager, you say? How strange. Normally fugitives don't take on such public roles. A drug-addled spying? That sounds rather strange, don't you think? I have. The only thing Evrard is a fugitive from is the exercise machine. No. Evrard would have no need to dirty his hands in such a way. Officer, you shouldn't speak ill of the dead. So you spoke with the victim before he died? I see. Well, you must be a very thorough detective. So what else did you learn? It's the responsibility of any good welfare state to take care of its most unfortunate citizens. They gave him a successful career. Every one of us has our role to play. What else has your investigation uncovered? Yes, it rather is. As much as I am a true believer in international institutions, there are times when even I grow frustrated with the bureaucracy. You think it's fine that Martinez is a safe haven for international fugitives? You know, concern for the rule of law is one of the moral intern's main criteria for admission into EPIS. Well, no matter. I should thank you for bringing this to our attention. Your efforts have been noted. Now, was there anything else you wanted to discuss? What proof do you have that this child is involved in corporate espionage? Selling drugs is certainly unfortunate, but what does that have to do with corporate espionage? Stealing from misguided pseudoscientists is unfortunate, but what does that have to do with corporate espionage? Racial slurs certainly have no place in a pluralistic society. But what does that have to do with corporate espionage? Corpse desecration is morally repugnant. But what does that have to do with corporate espionage? What do you mean by that, officer? There's no way I can submit this report to the ICP. They'd have my head examined. Extremely tenuous. I suggest you work on your investigative skills a bit more before you go around accusing children of crimes. Now that that's settled, was there anything else you'd like to discuss? Ah, good to hear. Excellent. On behalf of the moral intern, let me thank you for this service. I'll be sure to make a note of your contributions in my report. Revachol is fortunate to have police officers like you. You are a credit to the RCM. If more Revacholians were like you, they might be part of APIS by now. Ah, of course. Carry on then. What was that? Now that that's settled, was there anything else you'd like to discuss? I'm afraid I must insist that you tell me what you know, or I'll be forced to make a very unfavorable report to my superiors at the moral intern. Corporate espionage may technically be legal in Revachol, but elsewhere it's a very high-level offense. It violates a number of international agreements, in particular the First Lacherte Accord. I understand that you are here to investigate a murder. But I must impress upon you the seriousness of this matter. Thousands of corporate secrets may be at stake here. I shudder to think what damage that might do to the international markets. I only pray that the ICP apprehends this fugitive before more corporate secrets are lost. You're right, of course. What use are protocols if you don't follow them? Now, was there anything else you wish to discuss? Right. That should be enough for the ICP. Very good. On behalf of the moral intern, let me thank you for this service. Now that that's settled, was there anything else you'd like to discuss? Aha! A nationalist. I see. In other circumstances, I might be compelled to report you for sedition. Well, no matter. You've done the moral intern a great service, regardless of your personal views. Ah, very good then. This is a great relief. The sanctity of corporate secrets is a cornerstone of the international order. Anything else? That's when I understood. I should not be seeing this. You could say I'm undoing some of the material damage the international community caused when we arrived here. What's the meaning of this? Is your colleague here trying to arrest me? But we were talking about my friend here, not politics. My friend. What about him? But I suspect you knew that already. I can't say I'm surprised. The fine reputation of the men and women serving in the RCM is well-deserved. Only that there were about 8 or 10. I couldn't make out anything. It was so dark. And it was quiet. Quietest lynching I've ever heard of, let alone heard. Alice Courtenay? That's an interesting name already. Well, I'm glad I could help. My friend, if it's la responsabilité you're after, I have good news for you. There's no need to form such a committee because it already exists. The Comité de Responsabilité de Revachol. It acts as a sort of clearinghouse for coalition activities. To put it simply, they are the ultimate arbiters of la responsabilité in this part of the world. I would offer to connect you with the committee myself, but alas, I am not actually in Martinez. Isn't it? A triumph of both technical ingenuity and international cooperation. I, for one, feel much safer knowing it's up there watching all of us. Of course, we are speaking informally, but officially, I am still in La Delta, preparing for an upcoming conference on fuel oil derivatives. Unauthorized circuit bending is a very serious matter with grave security implications. But as of the moment, there is no specific law forbidding it. In Revachol, at least. Précisément. Officially, I am still in La Delta, preparing for an upcoming conference on fuel oil derivatives. Why, officially, I am still in La Delta, preparing for an upcoming conference on fuel oil derivatives. I'm only in Martinez in an unofficial capacity. Mais que faites-vous, officer? That's why it would be extremely irregular, or potentially even inappropriate for me to intercede with the committee concerning a district I'm not officially in. Unfortunately not, no. I don't have the pleasure. I am merely a representative of the coalition government, not very well versed in technology. Well, of course it is a heavily armed and armored warship with a full complement. But I assure you its purpose in Revachol is to keep the peace, not disturb it. Ah, well, I'm glad to hear that at least. It would really be quite unusual for you to have never noticed it before. No, don't be silly. We're simply speaking in an informal capacity. Officially, I am still in La Delta, preparing for an upcoming conference on fuel oil derivatives. Perhaps your blood sugar is a bit low? As I was saying, officially speaking, I am still in La Delta, preparing for an upcoming conference on fuel oil derivatives. Yes, you've made your persistence quite clear. Under normal circumstances, I would have to insist you go through the regular channels. Well, under ordinary circumstances, the committee contacts you. I don't mean to discourage you, of course. Just to say that it won't be easy to reach the committee. Interesting. In a sense, that's the very idea. The coalition doesn't want the people of Revachol to feel that they are under a military occupation. That is why the archer is always careful to maintain a constant, discreet distance. But if you have information of a vital interest, they might be willing to entertain an exception. In which case I would advise you to contact them via Coalition Warship Archer. That is part of the idea, of course. The coalition doesn't want the people of Revachol to feel that they are under a military occupation. That is why the archer is always careful to maintain a constant, discreet distance. I suppose there might be some way to circuit bend your way onto those frequencies, but you'd have to be one of those techno-tinkerers to do it. Fascinating. I always thought it was more like a dragonfly. But isn't it interesting how humanity always finds inspiration in nature? That, my friend, is your responsibility. I cannot take it from you, nor can you delegate it to someone else. Officer, you mean to say that you haven't noticed the giant coalition aerostatic peacefully patrolling the skies over Revachol? This is quite the problem. Very tricky. Of course, the archer has orders to fire on any unidentified aerostatics that might approach it, So it might be safer to get in touch from the ground. But in that case, you would require a radio transmitter capable of broadcasting on coalition frequencies. And that kind of technology naturally isn't typically available for non-coalition use. Yes, it is a bit of a conundrum. Let me just say that I have complete confidence in the RCM. I'm sure you'll figure something out. I find it a great comfort to know there are benevolent powers watching over all, in strict accordance with the Wayfarer Act and the Bristol-Mune Conventions. You see, in addition to being an airborne artillery platform, Coalition Warship Archer is also the linchpin of the Coalition's surveillance and communications infrastructure in Revachol. And listening! It has the most objective vantage point in the entire city. Not to mention a vast array of radio, photographic, and meteorological monitoring instruments. A fugitive? Officers? Officer? I must admit, I did not take you for a sightseer. What do you want now? Is that so? Have you come to enforce an arrest warrant? Is that an RCM term of art? For the wrongfully accused? Yes. And what is that? Officer, I'm listening. Unbelievable. I have never seen the nerve before, especially from a common officer of the Revachol Citizens Militia. Does this behavior represent the RCM's official stance toward its coalition partners? That is certainly a euphemistic way to describe what I recall. I accept your apology, officer. Out of my profound respect for the RCM and the importance of our continuing partnership. Now, what brings you down to the coast? And now, this conversation is over. Good day, officer. Perhaps he does, perhaps he does not. In any case, this conversation is over. Good day, officers. Ah, super. Here you are again, officer. How can I help? Ah, super. It's the officer. I was not expecting to run into you again, but things have a funny way of turning out, no? What brings you down to the scenic Martinez coast, my friend? If it's la responsabilité you're after, I have good news for you. There's no need to form such a committee, because it already exists. The Comité de Responsabilité de Revachol. It acts as a sort of clearinghouse for coalition activities. To put it simply, they are the ultimate arbiters of la responsabilité in this part of the world. I would offer to connect you with the committee myself, but alas, I am not actually in Martinez. Of course, we are speaking informally, but officially, I am still in La Delta, preparing for an upcoming conference on fuel oil derivatives. Précisément. Officially, I am still in La Delta, preparing for an upcoming conference on fuel oil derivatives. Why, officially, I am still in La Delta, preparing for an upcoming conference on fuel oil derivatives. I'm only in Martinez in an unofficial capacity. Mais que faites-vous, officer? That's why it would be extremely irregular, or potentially even inappropriate for me to intercede with the committee concerning a district I'm not officially in. No, don't be silly. We're simply speaking in an informal capacity. Officially, I am still in La Delta, preparing for an upcoming conference on fuel oil derivatives. Perhaps your blood sugar is a bit low? As I was saying, officially speaking, I am still in La Delta, preparing for an upcoming conference on fuel oil derivatives. Yes, you've made your persistence quite clear. Under normal circumstances, I would have to insist you go through the regular channels. Well, under ordinary circumstances, the committee contacts you. I don't mean to discourage you, of course. Just to say that it won't be easy to reach the committee. But if you have information of a vital interest, they might be willing to entertain an exception. In which case, I would advise you to contact them via Coalition Warship Archer. Officer, you mean to say that you haven't noticed the giant coalition aerostatic peacefully patrolling the skies over Revachol? Ah, well, I'm glad to hear that at least. It would really be quite unusual for you to have never noticed it before. Interesting. In a sense, that's the very idea. The coalition doesn't want the people of Revachol to feel that they are under a military occupation. That is why the archer is always careful to maintain a constant, discreet distance. Isn't it? A triumph of both technical ingenuity and international cooperation. I, for one, feel much safer knowing it's up there watching all of us. Fascinating. I always thought it was more like a dragonfly. But isn't it interesting how humanity always finds inspiration in nature? Well, of course it is a heavily armed and armored warship with a full complement. But I assure you its purpose in Revachol is to keep the peace, not disturb it. That is part of the idea, of course. The coalition doesn't want the people of Revachol to feel that they are under a military occupation. That is why the archer is always careful to maintain a constant, discreet distance. You see, in addition to being an airborne artillery platform, Coalition Warship Archer is also the linchpin of the Coalition's surveillance and communications infrastructure in Revachol. And listening! It has the most objective vantage point in the entire city. Not to mention a vast array of radio, photographic, and meteorological monitoring instruments. I find it a great comfort to know there are benevolent powers watching over all, in strict accordance with the Wayfarer Act and the Brüssel-Mune Conventions. This is quite the problem. Very tricky. Of course, the Archer has orders to fire on any unidentified aerostatics that might approach it, so it might be safer to get in touch from the ground. But in that case, you would require a radio transmitter capable of broadcasting on coalition frequencies. And that kind of technology naturally isn't typically available for non-coalition use. Yes, it is a bit of a conundrum. I suppose there might be some way to circuit bend your way onto those frequencies, but you'd have to be one of those techno-tinkerers to do it. Unfortunately not, no. I don't have the pleasure. I am merely a representative of the coalition government, not very well versed in technology. But you, unauthorized circuit bending is a very serious matter with grave security implications. But as of the moment, there is no specific law forbidding it. In Revachol, at least. That, my friend, is your responsibility. I cannot take it from you, nor can you delegate it to someone else. Always my pleasure to be of assistance to the RCM. Godspeed, and if we don't meet again, bonne chance. Already leaving? À tout à l'heure, officer. Well, that's très simple. I was visiting the fishing village just north of here. They have applied for a series of microloans to revitalize the old market, and well, I wished to see the situation firsthand. And then, well, I had some extra time on my hands, so I decided to stroll down here. It's quite peaceful, isn't it? Yes. There's nothing like a stroll along the coast to lift one's spirits. Well, you know what they say. In matters of taste, there can be no dispute. For my part, I find it quite invigorating. Ah bon? I'm all ears, officer. Really? Here? How can you be sure? Ah, a very useful gift for a police detective, I'm sure. Fascinating how much history is contained right here, if only one knows where to look for it. Ah? Is that what those pockmarks are? I might have guessed. Fascinating how much history is contained right here, if only one knows where to look for it. Yes. The loss of human life was truly catastrophic. This is why the coalition is so focused on preventing another war. Our peacekeeping mission is a testament to this. Thankfully, the region is becoming more and more stable. I'm confident that atrocities like this belong in the past. The future is tranquillou bilou, a rather brutal perspective on history. I personally take the more nuanced view that it was regrettably harsh, but perhaps necessary to end the war. Now, human life is always more important than private property. Though I do hope whoever was responsible at least compensated the building's owner appropriately. Well said. Let us just be grateful that we don't live in such fascinating times. Ah? Is that what those pockmarks are? I might have guessed. Fascinating how much history is contained right here, if only one knows where to look for it. What's certain is that we must do everything to prevent such tragic events from ever happening again. The answer lies in debates, not in violence. Let me just say that I have complete confidence in the RCM. I'm sure you'll figure something out.